One world currency.
The New World Order.
Those are the roots of trouble.
I imagine that right now you're feeling a bit like Alice, tumbling down the rabbit hole. Let me tell you why you're here. You're here because you know something. What you know you can't explain, but you feel it. You felt it your entire life. That there's something wrong with the world. You don't know what it is, but it's there, like a splinter in your mind, driving you mad. It is this feeling that has brought you to me. This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. All I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed. But I am asking your help in the tremendous task of informing and alerting the American people.
And now, welcome to another episode of Down the Rabbit Hole. Here's your host from federaljack.com. It's Popeye.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to tonight's live edition. It is July 12th, 2013. It is the Friday edition of Down the Rabbit Hole. And joining me for 2 hours tonight to analyze the latest in the news and the insanity here in Bizarro World is my good friend and fellow radio show host and filmmaker, Mr. Steve Starr. Steve, welcome back.
Hey, once again, my pleasure to be back with you, Popeye. A lot of news, and we'll be going over it with analysis, and I think we've got some good stuff here.
Yeah, we do. In fact, really quick, before we get into the serious stuff, because the first segment's always a quick, short segment, I want to play a clip for you really quick. You know that Asian airline that crashed the other day? Mm-hmm. Well, this KTVU News in Oakland, California, somebody trolled them. I don't know who it was, but somebody gave them a list of fictitious pilot names. Okay, and obviously when you hear the names, the pilot names, you'll see why that they got trolled. But they read them on air. Obviously somebody put it in the teleprompter, and the news repeater read it on air with this air of authority, like she was actually, she knew what she was talking about. And she obviously didn't even realize what she was reading on air, what it sounded like as it was coming out of her mouth, you would think. But again, this is just a quick example of why they're repeaters and why the mainstream media is losing out to the alternative media. Listen to this really quick.
Death and whether she was already dead when the truck hit her. We have new information now also on the plane crash. KTVU has just learned the names of the 4 pilots who were on board the flight. They are Captain Sum Ting Wong, Wee Tu Lo, Ho Lee Fook, and Bang Ding Ao. The NTSB has confirmed these are the names of the pilots on board Flight 214 when it crashed. We are working to determine exactly what roles each of them played during the landing.
Four pilots, right? Read them off again. Yeah, that's something else, Popeye.
Captain Something Wong, Wee Tu Lo, Holy Fook, Bang Ding Ow. It's the sequence of what happened. Just facepalm it. That's all I could do. When I was like, oh my god, they really aired this. It's just a prime example of why nobody takes them seriously anymore. All right, we'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. All right, we are back. Captain Something Wong. Wee Tu Lo. Steve, I played this for you really quick, like probably like 2 minutes before we went on air, and I said, hey, tell me if you hear anything weird in this, right? I didn't even really give you a setup for it. I just kind of let you hear it. And you at first you were like, what? And it took you a second, and you were like, wait a minute. Did she just say that? You know? Anybody and you weren't even really paying attention. I sprung it on you at the last moment, literally like 2 minutes before we went on air.
Yeah, it went by me, but I thought the name sure sounds strange.
But I'm saying you caught it within like 30 seconds. You're like, wait a minute. She's a news repeater sitting there going, Captain something Wong. It's a prime example of why they're a joke. Because they come on air. She comes on with like some semblance of authority. These are the 4 names we know because we checked with the NTSB. Well, apparently you didn't do that good checking. Or the FAA, or whoever you said, whoever you think you confirmed it with, because guess what? You didn't confirm anything. And then it comes out later on that after they read the wrong names, apparently that they weren't confirmed. So they don't know whoever loaded that into the teleprompter and told them. I mean, somebody trolled them. I don't know who did, but that's an epic troll job on whoever did it.
Yeah, that kind of stuff happens all the time.
Themselves. So
yeah. I mean, it just shows you how these people really do no fact-checking. They don't do any analysis. It goes right over their heads. This kind of stuff is just sock puppet news journalism. And these people, all right, I mean, it happens all the time. I used to work behind those microphones and in those news anchor desks. And, even in my day, we did a lot more verification of these kinds of things. First of all, 4 pilots. There are 2 pilots, a pilot and a co-pilot, a navigator and an engineer. Generally, they're not 4 pilots unless it's a long international flight and they're taking shifts. I suppose that could be. But
well, maybe even if they 3, maybe, navigator and then, pilot and co-pilot. But still, okay, maybe because it's a 777, maybe there are 4. But really, you don't read the names of them. You just go on air with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's amazing how this stuff gets through, and it shows you that the people who do these jobs really are not checking their facts. I mean, it was kind of a sad or a sick joke about a sad event, but it really does illustrate something, doesn't it, Popeye?
Well, it really, that's why I brought it up. I mean, it's kind of, I guess it brings a chuckle to your lips when you hear it, but and it is a sad event because a couple teenagers died in the crash. And people were injured. I'm sure people are traumatized by the whole event for life now over this. And it's just a sad event all around. But the reason I wanted to bring it up was because it's a shining example of the joke that the mainstream media has become. I mean, come on. You guys don't do any semblance of fact-checking whatsoever. And I'm not saying that the alternative media doesn't get things wrong here or there, but at least, I mean, they do a better job of fact-checking than this news station does. And they have, the point is they have this, they being the news station, has this huge operating budget compared to, people doing this independently. And the independent people do a better job of fact-checking than the mainstream loser media. It's just ridiculous.
We have to. Yeah, we have to. I mean, we have to check our facts. And, of course, we've been wrong about things at times, too. I remember a few years back they had a new news intern at one of the big I guess it was a ABC affiliate at that time in Denver, a big news station. And the gal was cute and could read well and had a good performance. And she was telling us we had a big snowstorm that somebody had called in that one of the balanced rocks at Garden of the Gods had fallen down. One of these balanced rocks up there. And they reported this, of course, and it was all a farce. It was all a fraud. But, I mean, they didn't even bother to check on that. This gal, she couldn't have been she was wet behind the ears. She could have been maybe more than a month out of journalism school if she even went there. But, I mean, that's the kind of stuff that happens all the time, and that's a small story in comparison. But how can we trust these people? I got out of that business a long time ago, Popeye, simply because I didn't like what they were doing when they knew what they were doing, much less when they don't, which is a good portion of the time as well.
You got out because you had some self-respect, Steve. So
I didn't even really understand what it was at that time, but I could tell you I don't look back. I have no regrets. I am so glad I did not stay in the mainstream news media. I could have made probably $200,000 to $300,000 a year as a sports anchor. That's where they wanted to put me. I didn't want to be in sports. I love sports, but I don't want to live and breathe and everything else sports all the time. I mean, it's a distraction. It's fun for a little while, but they were definitely moving me out of important news as fast as they could, I could tell. And that was
well, they don't want anybody with a brain who thinks outside the box. Doesn't matter if you think about sports or not. Like, okay, oh, this one, he likes football, but wait a minute, he's a smart one, and he likes football. Oh, no.
Yeah.
Send him towards the football. Don't let him think. Send him to the brainless activity. I mean, that's what they do. They don't want... I mean, look what you're doing with the death of Michael Hastings, one of their own.
Right. Exactly. Yes. Definitely a car explosion, in my opinion. You know, a pack of C4, something on the engine. I don't think they actually steered the car into the tree. I think it hit the tree after the explosion, is my take on it. What do you think, Popeye?
I think the explosion happened and then the car hit the tree. I don't think it could have happened. It could have happened right before it hit the tree. It could have veered into the tree as a result of the explosion. It doesn't look. I'd have to go look at the tree itself, but it doesn't look like the car hit the tree with any real force. It looks like the damage was done before it hit the tree. But I'd have to get closer shots to actually see the damage to the ground, see how far the tree was pushed in the ground by the car hitting it. I used to do car accident recovery. I did it for about 10 years. So after a while, you get good. You can reconstruct an accident. I used to sit there with the cops, and we used to just talk. And sometimes I wouldn't even say anything to them. I would just sit and watch. And I learned how they reconstructed accidents. And over the course of time, you can see it with your own eyes. So after you've seen it so many times. So without me getting down there, I really can't 100% verify, but it doesn't look like it rammed the tree too hard. So it looks like there was and people said there was an explosion before it hit anyway, and there were sparks and stuff flying out from underneath it. To me, it sounds like they put some sort of incendiary charge underneath the tank, and they set it off. And whatever it was, I would, if I were going to look at it, I would see if it were some sort of shaped charge that was affixed to the gas tank. That would be, all you have to do is maybe have like a curved charge to go up like partly on the bottom of the tank and maybe up the side or up the, like the back of the tank. But facing, you'd want it curved, but you'd want it to go up the back of the tank facing into, so when the explosive force came out, it would hit the gasoline, go through the tank, and push all that stuff into the driver's cabin, the passenger cabin, So that's where it'd be facing. The explosive force would be facing that direction. And if you put it behind the gas tank and you make it powerful, not too powerful, but powerful enough, especially if they're going to do this, a lot of times they've practiced this before. I don't think that they don't. And,
they've done a lot of car bombing, yeah.
They know what they're doing. So, and they're going to get someone that knows explosives. All you need is a small shaped charge, and what God knows the kind of stuff that they have, you know what I mean? I mean, rudimentary stuff you could probably do this with, but James Bond type crap that they probably have, and or some other special stuff that they have to take people out. The point is, all you need is some sort of shaped charge facing to go through the tank and into the passenger cabin. The explosive force, would rupture the tank, and it would push all the fuel and then into the passenger cabin, right? And the fuel is going to be on fire because of the explosion. So, and plus you have that concussive force. So the concussive force goes into the passenger cabin, and because it's inside that passenger cabin, it's kind of like, contained in there. So that could have killed them. The concussive force could have liquefied his insides without even, you wouldn't even see it on the outside, but the shockwave would go through him and could liquefy his insides, smack his brain around inside his skull, turn that into oatmeal. So that could have killed him. And then the fire coming in would make sure that if the concussive force didn't kill him and he was only critical, that the fire, it finished him off. And that thing burned hot. So there had to be more than gas in there. Gas burns hot, but that thing was burning hot. Hot. So
yeah, again, the key thing is just like we told about the story before, Popeye. Nobody's bothering in the mainstream news media to question what happened here. When the motor was found, the engine was found, how far was it? 40 yards from the car. That's not going to happen at that speed, especially if he runs into the tree, head on. I mean, it's absolutely absurd that this fireball and this disaster, this explosion, took place along the lines of what they said happened, and no one questions it. This is a serious indictment against the news media. We could talk about how these people are criminal. This is criminal activity. It actually is what they're doing here. because the public airways belong to the people. They are not licensed to use broadcasting airwaves that belong to the people to disseminate dangerous, misleading, or destructive information. These guys are this kind of news media is criminal activity, Popeye. This is not allowed. I don't know why we don't have a bigger demand for this right now, but we are working on it, friends. And but just to make a long story short, this is criminal activity, propagandizing people destructively with the information that they have been involved in knowingly. It's not just a mistake like, we too low. You know what I mean? A lot of stupid people are out there. But this is knowingly disseminating.
Dude, San Diego, I think it's San Diego 6. They went out, one of their reporters was trying to, and they prefaced it with, these aren't conspiracy theories. Well, no, they're conspiracy facts, what you're throwing out. Because, again, you're misusing the term conspiracy, mainstream media. And, like, a lot of people still, even the awake people, still misuse the term conspiracy. And you and I actually have gone over that in the past on previous broadcasts. But San Diego 6 did a piece, and their reporter was like, you know what, I'm inclined to believe there was something to attach to the fuel tank and, rigged to explode. Really? Well, didn't I just say that? You know what I mean? So now you have the people that are in the mainstream media going, well, this just doesn't look right. So, I mean, I give them credit for discussing it. To preface it with, we're not trying to get into conspiracy theories. I mean, that's just, to preface it like that, it's like shooting yourself in the foot. Why even say that? You're playing into that paradigm. In fact, what you should do is you should go on air and explain what the term conspiracy is. People are charged with it every day. I have an article open in a different tab on the window in my browser here about and I'm actually trying to find it as I'm talking about it, about a sheriff's deputy, former sheriff's deputy sentenced for conspiracy to commit bribery. Dun, dun, dun. There's that C word, Steve, but I thought conspiracies were fake and didn't exist. And look, this is from Fox 8 out of New Orleans from July 3rd of this year. Former sheriff's deputy sentenced for conspiracy to commit bribery.
Yep, and what was Richard Nixon's charge of conspiracy as well? I mean, he resigned, the President of the United States. I mean, it too, Brutus, it's been around a long time. This kind of stuff is nothing new, of course. But, the idea is these people in the news media are waiting, or wandering out along the lines of asking questions. And it's always, if we ask questions, we might be wandering into some kind of a crazy idea. Because we're going to wait until we're told by someone what happens, and that is what we're going to continue to repeat without asking questions. This is a violation of the public trust. These stations that use public airways are not licensed to do this.
Well, here's the question that people should ask themselves. If the question that I'm asking, if I say, well, is there a possibility that there was a bomb strapped to his car? Oh, that's crazy. That's conspiracy theorist talk. Well, what would happen if the detective or one of the detectives investigating this case had the same question and asked the same question? Would that make him a conspiracy theorist? Or would that make him an investigator doing his job, asking a serious, logical question that's not unheard of? It's not unheard of that they would assassinate somebody via a car bomb. They did it, the mobsters did it to one another in the early 1900s. What makes people think that they wouldn't do it to each other now? The government, they do it all the time. I mean, this is ridiculous to think that it's a, oh my God, it's a crazy, tricky conspiracy theory. You need a tinfoil hat, these crazy nutbags. They think Michael Hastings was killed by the government. Yeah. And the guy says he's being, he's going to go off grid. He's got a big article coming out. The feds are, looking around, snooping around him, everything else, and suddenly he dies in a mysterious car crash / explosion. Yeah, no, that's not shady. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. So, yeah, I'm convinced that Hastings was assassinated without a shadow of a doubt. The guy obviously pissed off people in the wrong places. A lot of people, they love to theorize. The mainstream media is like, well, he wrote these scathing reports about Stanley McChrystal. Why don't you ask the question that nobody's asking except for the alternative media? And I'll give credit, even though I don't like them, the Young Turks, at least right after his death, they were covering this a lot. I don't really watch their show, so I only see if someone throws a clip up on YouTube or whatever, so I don't really pay too close attention to it anyway. They might be mentioning him more often, but they have mentioned him a few times, and at least they covered things even if they didn't, the hosts didn't believe everything here or there, at least they had the courage to cover the question and say it on air, on some sort of broadcast medium, which is more than I can say for anybody else. His friend Staff Sergeant Joe Briggs went on Megyn Kelly's show on Fox, and apparently she laughed at him while during the conversation, or laughed about how he thought that the government could be involved in Hastings' death. I mean, it's just disrespectful, and these people they're scum. I mean, they either they actually believe and drink their own Kool-Aid, or they're that evil. Some of them are that evil, and some of them are just so stupid that they're just repeaters, like the dumb one that you heard earlier. And I'm not using that as an ad hominem, by the way, when I call her dumb. I'm just saying, I mean, come on. You're reading something off a teleprompter, you don't even bother to, maybe read it a second or two, try to analyze it? No. Of course, that's not your job. Your job is to sit there and be a good little puppet. You see, that's the problem, that you're in that situation to begin with. Well, it's my job to sit there and be a puppet. That's the problem. You're willing to fill that role. Well, somebody else will if I won't. Oh, so that's justification for being an idiot. Okay, see, I get off on a tangent. It's, you know what I mean, Steve. Now,
yeah.
When
these people, go ahead.
Well, when it comes to Hastings' death, and I want you to finish your thought, and then you can answer this. When it comes to Hastings' death, don't you see? I mean, a blind deaf person could see that this is a hit, right?
Yeah, that should be the first question anybody would ask, and of course they always have been. Situations like this where the first question where somebody needs to investigate to verify everything that happened on all these kinds of accounts, that's the news media's job. That's their job, is to dig, to do investigative reporting. They can talk about the death, the facts, the illustrations of all the forensics of everything that's out there. But to just take the company line and to keep repeating it and then act like you're like a smirky little sock puppet anytime somebody raises a question that seriously needs to be asked is just an ideology that they're pimping on people out there who don't know any better, but sit there and assume that they're getting the authority on these stories, and they're not. Obviously, Popeye, this is the real crime in America right now. The journalistic industry is in serious trouble, and the mainstream media is collapsing, and thank God a lot of people are waking up to it, but not fast enough. And I mean, you need to talk to people and say, look, if you're listening to the mainstream news media, that's ABC, CBS, NBC, PBS, Fox, and a slew of others, the corporate-owned media, you're in the minority of people who actually believe this nowadays. Yeah, I just tell them that. You are in the minority. Everybody else has woke up, and you're still watching this. And because a lot of people don't realize that many people have already turned it off and are starting to ask serious questions, polls favor a lot more skepticism against the news that's coming out these days, Popeye. And they should. And in a story like this, with a very important reporter covering a very, very big event, suddenly is dead. Breitbart was another one, of course, and of course we have the story of Deborah Jane Palfrey, the D.C. madam who hung herself after she said she wasn't going to do this, when she had a list of all kinds of very important people in her clientele that she was getting ready to expose. We have others, we have Sonny Bono, of course, Pat Tillman is one of those things that people just...
a lot of people have no idea about Sonny Bono.
Yeah. Right.
I mentioned Sonny Bono the other day. My wife said something about Sonny Bono, and I was like, yeah, he was murdered. Just like that. That's all I said. And the conversation continued on, and she was like, wait a minute, stop. Don't even go any further. And I was like, what? She's like, I don't want to know. And I was like, why? She's like, don't ruin Sonny Bono for me. She's like, I love him. I'm like, no, he wasn't a bad guy. I was like, but apparently... not that I know of, yeah.
He was a good guy.
Yeah, apparently he was trying to fight the bad guys, and they took care of him because he was trying to... they got him, babe, because he was trying to. I'm not trying to be sarcastic when I say that, but
it's true. That's what
they
happened.
did. They killed him. I mean, I forget exactly. In fact, we can get into detail about that on the other side, because I have to pause this because the break is sneaking up just as we get into interesting little tidbits. But yeah, go look it up. Sonny Bono was murdered, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be right back. All right, we are back. So, finishing up, because I want to get on to a ton of other topics with Steve, because we'll end up getting sidetracked, but finishing up with Hastings' death, It's something we need to keep, like his friend Staff Sergeant Joe Biggs said, we need to keep this thing in the forefront. We need to talk about it. Weekly radio hosts, the guys that are on like 5 days a week, we need to bring it up at least once, twice a week, if not more. Bloggers, writers, independent investigators, journalists, people need to look this stuff up and do research on this. Look up the Boston breaks, look up remotely controlling cars. Don't take the LAPD's official version of things as the end-all, be-all. I mean, after all, they're the ones that investigated the assassination of Bobby Kennedy. They did such a great job. So, and, you know what I mean, Steve? Like, come on.
Yeah, they have fouled up many, many times. That's for sure.
Right, we're going to trust the people that, like, look, all I got to say is they were on video beating Rodney King, right? And then they tried to cover it. They should, that whole thing could have been diffused. I think that was personally, I think that it was kind of interesting how that video camera just happened to be there, and that person just happened to catch that, and that tape just happened to get aired and everything else. I think that in itself was could have been what you see today, race baiting to create riots and stuff, because that was around the same time that Kissinger made the comment about today people would be upset if foreign troops were in the country, and tomorrow they'll be calling for them to come in and restore order, blah 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 blah. Well, field tests, right? So perhaps that's what that was. But my point is proven. The LAPD, time and time again, even if you take away their blatant police brutality, if you neglect to look at that, just look at their massive amount of investigations that seem to cover things up instead of actually be an investigation. I mean, look at cops like Michael Rupert, who was an LAPD cop, and he had to get out because he was shot at by his fellow police officers and government agents and stuff while he was trying to reveal information about the CIA drug trafficking going through Los Angeles, and the LAPD helping out. Oh, surprise, surprise. I mean, police corruption, is it really a big surprise? So, no, I don't expect to get a real independent police report from them, do you?
No, I don't, and I think that the key thing is you have to also look at the timing of this event with the Zimmerman trial in the middle of the summer. This is when the Rodney King verdict was announced. My feeling about Rodney King was there's so many cases of legitimate abuse of police power, driving while black, if you like, This wasn't one of them, unfortunately. Rodney King was a bad situation, and I realized there were frustrations in the inner city about police activity and the way, blacks had been profiled, if you like that word, or if that was the word they were using. But, the thing is, I mean, the whole thing was trumped up, just like the Zimmerman case. We've been talking about that, and we'll get into that, I guess, in a little bit. But
don't you know, it is. It's done. And I'm not saying that beating, 5 or 6 guys, white guys beating one black dude with half to death is acceptable and okay. But what I'm saying is I think that whole thing, the way that came out was a psyop done to instigate race riots. And
absolutely.
It's the same thing that's going on today. And I'm not saying that because, I have a tinfoil hat. It's because you can see how they do it. I mean, they race bait blatantly. Look at what MSNBC and CNN, have they covered anything else during the course of the day in the past week or so? No. You know what they're doing, right? They're streaming live from the time it starts till the time it ends, the Zimmerman trial. Once in a while, they might interrupt if there's some breaking news. The president farts in the wrong direction. Oh my God, news at 11. Actually, in Obama's case, it doesn't matter what direction he farts in. They all smell like roses and sunshine and rainbows. Right? Yeah, that's the way that the media talks about him. I mean, he could run over a busload of nuns with Bigfoot, and they'd find a way to spin it and make it sound positive.
Yeah, it's absolutely atrocious. Well, they are turning on him in a few places, and of course, there's so many stories. And I don't want to wander off too much, but did you see the story that Jerome Corsi did about the Libyan officials, which tied the Morsi to the Benghazi attack? Now, here you go with Jerome Corsi, who I believe is, generally speaking, a very good journalist. I'm not always real favorable to WorldNet Daily, as we've talked about before. I think Joseph Farr is a very arrogant man, but they do put out some pretty good information here. And I just wanted to touch on this real quickly because this is the kind of stuff that people aren't hearing. And, of course, he's a pretty good reporter who's done a lot of verification. He says 2 days ago this was published. He said a letter by a top Libyan official blames the attack that killed U.S. Ambassador Christopher Stevens on Mohamed Morsi. the now deposed president of Egypt. Of course, if you've been following what's going on in Egypt, you know about Morsi. And Popeye and I were on the air. I know as this whole thing, the whole thing went down in Egypt, we were saying as it was happening, Popeye, if you recall, the revolution has been compromised. We were warning people and giving reports from people and friends of ours on the ground in Egypt who were saying what was happening then. The whole Morsi regime, which was backed by Obama. Now here we have direct ties to Morsi. It says World Net Daily has verified the authenticity of the letter by Colonel Mahmoud al-Sharif, the chief of the Department of Security of the Libyan government in Tripoli, written 4 days after the attack on the U.S. compound in Benghazi. The letter mentions Morsi as being implicated in the planning that led to the Benghazi attack, that identifies the Egyptian jihadist group Ansar Sharia as the group responsible. Okay, you can go on, you can read about that. Just Google Corsi, C-O-R-S-I, Jerome Corsi, Benghazi attack, Morsi, and you'll find the story. But this is one of those things that while we're hearing about the Zimmerman trial and Greta Van Susteren, or these idiots that are up there, giving us what they think or what we are being led to believe is what we're told we're interested in, which we really could probably care less, has very little effect on us. But here's a situation again where our ambassador was killed. We're stimulating more of this upheaval and unrest in the Middle East. This is going to cause major problems around the world, and there's no reporting on it except for in the alternative media, Popeye.
Well, and it just, dude, this stuff serves as a distraction. That's all it's for. I mean, I'm not saying that they're not trying to race bait with it, and there's some interesting connections. Apparently the DOJ was involved in organizing protests against Zimmerman.
That's a good story you posted there. You want to refer to that because that's a very good story showing the Department of Injustice, Obama government organized protests against George Zimmerman. That's absolutely...
Isn't that a conflict of interest?
Oh, it's intolerable. It's inciting riots is what he's doing, I have a lot of very close black friends that I've worked with for many years, and most of them are very conservative. As a matter of fact, a couple of them can't even mention the name Obama without wanting to curse. And these are, very proper gentlemen, okay? They hate the guy. I'm telling you, black people are growing in numbers who hate Obama. And they're saying that Uncle Tom's Cabin has become Uncle Barry's White House in the 20th century. He is setting blacks back 50 to 100 years by the corrupt activity that he's involved in. And this whole thing with George Zimmerman absolutely points to the fact that race-baiting politics like this are dangerous to all of us.
Well, I've been covering this all week, dude. I've been exposing this stuff as much as I can all week and trying to break it down because it's just so blatant on TV. I figure, I can see what it is, and I for some reason, I don't see a lot of other people talking about it, whether or not they realize it. They might mention it in passing, but they're not really tearing it apart or spending enough time. That's fine. There's more than enough of us out there to cover one aspect of this monstrosity, this monstrous agenda that they have going on. So it's fine. I don't mind taking the time to do it. I'll do it. I have no problem. That's good. Other people are covering other things. I'll cover this for a couple of days because it needs to be torn apart. And I spent the past even last week I did a couple of broadcasts on this because racism is just used to divide us, and this faux racial tension, because it's not real. It's not real. Look, yes, there are spots where you can walk down the street and people might feel ill at ease if it's like a little old lady and she's like 90 or 80 or whatever. She's even still walking down the street at that age, right? And maybe a black guy or a Puerto Rican guy or somebody that she thinks is not white, whatever, walks by, or maybe she'll grab her purse if she's like 70 or 80. But for the most part, most people nowadays pretty much don't care. I mean, there still is racism. I mean, it's racism all over the world, right? In every country, it doesn't matter. I've gone over this. So, but for the most part, it's not like it was in the 60s, okay? And unless, of course, you talk to the mainstream media or the government, then they would have you believe that it's just exactly like it was in the 60s. And that, we need to, people, it's okay if people ride in the streets because, hey, they're pissed off. And the article that I mentioned, this isn't something that I just pulled out of thin air. Right in the first paragraph of the article, Judicial Watch, okay? Not not, 3 guys in the basement. This is Judicial Watch. If you don't know who they are, go look them up. Judicial Watch announced it has obtained documents in response to local, state, and federal records requests revealing that a little-known unit of the Department of Justice, the Community Relations Service, CRS, was deployed to Sanford, Florida following the Trayvon Martin shooting to help organize and manage rallies and protests against George Zimmerman. That's a conflict of interest.
Absolutely.
That is a conflict of interest, blatantly. If not, that's got to be criminal too at some level, is it not? I mean, I don't know the law deep enough to know if that could be considered criminal, but at the very least, that's got to be considered a conflict of interest on the government's part, and show that they have some sort of hand in this, and they're however you want to label it, however deep it goes just goes to show you that they do certainly have some sort of hand in this.
Yeah, it's a horrible situation. I think it is incitement to riot. I think it's actually criminal activity, really, especially the way the news media is pimping this affair. And there are places, Popeye, I think I might have told you a story. I mean, I used to work in the inner city quite a bit. In Denver, in the area where I was at, is nothing like Baltimore or Philadelphia. My brother-in-law and my sister were driving through Baltimore. They wanted to go see Edgar Allan Poe's house, and they a couple of bumpkins from Colorado. He's, by the way, works for the police department up in Summit County, where he's not a cop, but he serves papers and stuff like that. He's been a firefighter for many years. The guy's a regular fellow dude. And he's just driving through Baltimore, and he's in a rental car, and he gets pulled over by a cop. He says, "What was I doing, officer?" He says, "Not what you were doing, it's where you are. Do you know where you are?" He says, "No." He says, "You will proceed for the next 6 blocks and not stop at one stop sign. You will slow down, cross the intersection quietly. Do not stop. Get the hell out of here now." He said, "Because you're in a war zone. They will kill you for this rental car. I don't want to pick you up off the street. Do you understand me?" He said, "Yeah, I guess so. I didn't realize He said, "Yeah, just get in the car. Don't stop. Drive and get out of here now." This is what the cop told him. Don't even stop the stop signs. I mean, I've been in places like this. There are people who kill people in other neighborhoods all over the country. There are places in Los Angeles where there are invisible fences that you don't see. If you're black, you don't go into the Hispanic area. If you're Hispanic, you don't go into the black area. It's the same way in the south side of Chicago.
I think it was Martin Luther King's granddaughter came out and said to Jesse Jackson and it's either his daughter or his granddaughter, maybe it was his daughter, came out and said to Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton last year when they were running around stirring the pot up, she said, "Knock it off."
Yeah.
She came out and said, "Knock it off." You can go look it up. I think it was his daughter, maybe. It had to be his daughter, because she's got to be in her 50s by now. So, yeah, I would say it was probably his daughter. But she came out and said, it was either his daughter or his granddaughter. Anyway, she came out and said, "Knock it off. You guys are race baiting." And, knock it off. Stop it. You guys are stirring the pot for no reason, and they're doing it because it's an easy way to keep people riled up. Again, it's an emotional thing, so you get people locked into that appeal to emotion. They're locked onto that. They're not thinking logically. You get them all riled up, and then you get people fighting amongst each other, and then it gives the powers that shouldn't be an excuse to come in with their tanks and their helicopters and their SWAT teams and start shooting people. And it doesn't really give them an excuse. Like, it doesn't excuse it, but it will give them the excuse that they feel they need that'll justify, at least in their sick, twisted minds, that it's okay to come in and do this. And when they're the ones that fomented the whole thing from the get-go. What's their motto? Out of chaos, order, or order out of chaos. So they create the chaos, and then they come in with their answer, which is this new order where we need troops on the streets and tanks and all this. No, we don't need any of that crap. They're the ones that are going to foment violence if it happens. Remember that. They're the ones causing the problem. Don't riot, people. It's stupid. You're playing right into the hands of the real slave masters. We'll be right back. Wow, first hour is already up. Final segment of the first, but don't worry, we still got another hour. Steve and I are going to be going over a ton of stuff, so don't go anywhere. By the way, I want to jump back to the Hastings thing really quick before I forget to say this.
Oh, yeah.
Mercedes hasn't been contacted by the LAPD yet. Don't you find that odd? I mean, if I were the detective, I would want to know. First thing I would do is call Mercedes and say, "Hey, is it normal for your cars to blow up before they hit a tree?" while people are just driving them down the street? Because if so, you guys might want to have a recall on your 2013 whatever the hell model it was, but it was a 2013. And Mercedes has said, well, yeah, our cars aren't supposed to just blow up, so we want to help out the LAPD, but they haven't called us as of yet. Well, gee, that's odd. I mean, you would think that would be like one of the first phone calls the detective would make, unless he was told not to.
Yeah, you can see it in the news that Mercedes is calling 2013 models of a particular brand because engines have a tendency to expel 100 feet from the cars. The engines
in the opposite direction of the way the car was traveling, because that usually happens because things always defy physics, Steve. Yeah. The last time I saw something defy physics was on 9/11, but hey, I guess there's other days that the laws of physics just need not apply, right? Only when shady things connected to the government happen does things like physics. You don't have to worry about that. Any other time, I guess you have to worry about it, but not during times like this. It's just it really makes you look at things and say, like, look at people around you and go, you can't really believe that, right? And when people go, well, it sounds plausible. No, it doesn't. Not even remotely does it sound plausible. How can the LAPD, let me ask you this, how can they, and by the way, any of my listeners who are police officers, I know I have a bunch of listeners that are good cops, not bad cops, not scumbag cops, but actually there are good cops that listen to the broadcast. They've emailed me from time to time, and I like to give them a shout out. There are good cops out there, so, thanks for the ones that do listen, the few of you that are out there. Thank you for the things you do. But I want you guys to email me if you get a chance, vfor911@gmail.com. vfor911@gmail.com. Police officers with experience, retired police officers, whatever. Email me and let me know if you think what the following statement that I'm about to make is true. If a police officer is investigating a case, how can a police officer consider a case closed with no foul play, and it was just a sad, horrific car accident? How can you consider that to be if you haven't called Mercedes to find out if it's normal for their cars to burst into a ball of flame? If you haven't even contacted them, how can you consider it case closed, normal car crash? How can you rule out any type of incendiary device? Oh, because we don't think that. But why? Oh, because that's just outlandish type of theory talk. But really? Then you're not being a good detective, because a good detective would narrow out you'd look at all possibilities and let the evidence lead you where it may. Well, the evidence didn't lead us that way. Well, can we see the evidence? No. I mean, really? If it's just a traffic accident, can we see the reports? No, we're not releasing them. I mean, they're not releasing the reports. So if it's just a traffic accident, where are you guys hiding? If it's just an accident, how come you haven't called Mercedes? So I guess my statement is they're failing at being a real investigator, right? So any detectives out there, tell me what you think. Doesn't that sound shady? vfor911@gmail.com. Any retired police investigators, whatever, active duty, current, whatever, on patrol, whatever you guys call it, email me and let me know what you think if you're listening, or if you hear this broadcast later on, or anybody that might be an investigator, former military investigator, whatever. Let me know what you think, because to me, it just sounds like they're not doing their job at a base level. Dereliction of duty at the very least, right? I mean, how can you look at this situation with any type of integrity, and act like any type of even a semblance of an investigator, and say, well, there's no foul play. Did you call Mercedes? No, we didn't have to. We just know there's no foul play. It's normal cars blow up like that. It's normal. It hit a tree. Boom. I mean, it's just, dude, right? Like, come on.
Yeah, I think next hour we got to talk about something that I've been thinking about today, and that is, I wish there was a poll for cops around the country to weigh in, if anonymously, to say how they feel about certain events being covered. I mean, is it 65% are favorable to what the police story was, or are there a large number of people who question what happened? And just fellow cops, who said, look, I don't think this is good police work at all. It would be great if we had a huge number of either retired or active law enforcement people weigh in on these issues, Popeye.
Well, that's why I threw the email out there again. VFOR911@gmail.com. Email me if you have any comments, questions about the investigation into the death of Hastings. I'm sure there's a lot of good professional investigators out there would find that to be shady at the very least, Steve, and their behavior. And you guys don't have to comment about the LAPD or anything. Just tell me if you were investigating it, if you think that that's a little odd that they didn't, at least look at certain basic things. Anyway, we're going to break. We're back in 59 short seconds. Don't go anywhere. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back with hour number 2 here on tonight's live edition of Down the Rabbit Hole. I am your host, Popeye from FederalJack.com. It is July 12th, 2013. It's the Friday edition of DTRH. Riding shotgun with me tonight is my good friend, fellow radio show host, and filmmaker, Mr. Steve Stars. And Steve, I guess we could let the cat out of the bag. Coming up, we don't have a launch date yet, but coming up in the coming weeks, you're going to start doing a weekly broadcast of your own once a week for an hour, I believe.
Yeah, I'd like to even do more if I could. I used to do radio shows every day, and also this is an opportunity for me to give you a shameless plug again, Popeye, because you don't do it yourself. It takes a lot out of you to do a show like this. It really does, because you want to provide the best information. You've got to stay in touch. I mean, it takes 3 hours at least to pay attention and do your research, do 1 good hour of radio every day. And Popeye, you've been doing it. I've been, the recipient of your good work and graces, having, being allowed to be on your show. And I know how tough it is. So, friends, if you can help Popeye, go to FederalJack.com. Just get the word out if necessary. Take his podcast. He's all over the internet. He posts these things continually. He's been doing this for a long time. Give him whatever help you can. Down the Rabbit Hole is the name of his radio show, but FederalJack.com. And I wanted to mention that because I might take on another radio show for a bit myself here on Unbound Radio just to get back into it a little bit. But it does take a lot out of it. Out of our lives to get this stuff out. We do not, we like to boast when we get a $50 donation. That's big time for us, Dude,
if I get like a $35 donation, I have a couple people. I have one couple out of Pennsylvania, and I won't say their names on air because I don't want to cause them any issues, whatever. But because people can be with political views or whatever. But so I don't want anybody that might hear it and might know them and give them any crap. But if it weren't for these two people, I wouldn't really get any donations at all. And they can't afford to donate much, but they donate about $35 a month to me. Like once a month, I get a donation. I see the little thing pop up, and it says $35. They are just the coolest couple ever. They really are, and I really you guys know who you are. Wanted to give them a quick shout out because they know when they hear this, whether they hear it live or they hear it on the rebroad or the archive or whatever. You guys know who you are. I appreciate what you do every month because I really don't. I don't get paid for this. I don't. It's not that I really don't. I don't get paid for this. This is all volunteer. So any little bit does. I'm not whining. I want to get off this subject because I don't want to sound like I'm whining for money. But I do. I do put it to good use. I use it to pay for the server fees, and that way people can download all the shows for free, and I don't have to put up a paywall so I could end up paying for all the broadband, the bandwidth that I have to use, and the server that I use to host all this stuff. So it does help. Believe me, the $35 here, or $15 here, or $5 there. Every little bit helps. But there are people I tend to get more donations from foreign countries than I do from American citizens, which is really odd. But whatever. Anyway, we're going to break. When we come back, I want to pick your brain about Adam Kokesh's arrest, Steve. Don't go anywhere. 59 seconds. All right, we are back. So pay attention. Like I said last segment. Within the coming weeks, I'll have Steve back on again to we'll announce the date when his solo show here is going to go fire off and start. But I want to pick your brain about a few other things, Steve, before I forget, because I know we could sit here and We can, I could sit and conversate with you about almost, I think every topic or every and any topic that is out there to conversate with you about. I have had a conversation with you about. We've done shows covering everything, but I want to stick with this police state style vein that we've seemed to have found ourselves in for a second, because I want to ask you what your thoughts are on the arrest of radio show host and activist Adam Kokesh. Now, I've interviewed Adam before here on the broadcast. I don't always agree with everything he does or says, but that doesn't mean that I believe the guy deserves a paramilitary-style SWAT raid with flashbang grenades thrown into his apartment. It's just utterly ridiculous, and it's an overreaction to a video and people just looking for an excuse to play with their toys, really. And it's ridiculous, and it's a blatant abuse of power. And people shouldn't look at it like, yeah, man, they got him, that guy's a terrorist. People should look at this and be like, wow, that's ridiculous that they went that much overboard. I mean, if the guy was that much of a threat, and they were worried that, oh my God, he could, national security, he could kill somebody, oh, he's a threat to himself and everybody else, why did they wait so long to go raid his house? Why did they wait? It was like 4 or 5 days after the video that they raided him. Why didn't they raid him that day? If he was such a threat, why weren't they on him like, flies on crap? Because it's garbage. And their excuse for using a battering ram to take the friggin' front door down and then chuck a flashbang grenade in, it's ridiculous. It's overkill. It's an overreaction. And again, to me, it's just an excuse to play with toys, because if he was such a dangerous threat, then they would have gone after him right then and there, and they could have sent the SWAT team in to get him right then and there. But it took them, 4 days, 5 days, whatever it was, to go after him. It's crap. So what do you think about this whole mess?
Well, absolutely. I mean, I think regardless of where you see Adam Kokesh, whether, of course, there's been some comments about his background and some things he was doing to actually help Obama in the early days. I don't know why his political leanings may have changed, but I can tell you this, that he has succeeded. He's just tremendously successful in exposing what's wrong with this system. I think this was a victory for him because, had two Andy Griffiths instead of this squad of Barney Fifes on steroids show up and knocked on his door and said, Adam, we have to take you in. We've got a warrant here. You may be able to beat this in court, but we got to serve you. We'll handcuff you. Don't hit your head. If you want to make a phone call real quick, keep your hands where we can see him, and then let's just go in. I think he would have gone. That would have been the most logical thing for law enforcement to do.
From what I understand, that's what they were expecting. They just figured that the cops were going to come and want to talk to him, or at least take him downtown or whatever, and have a little chat with him at the very least, if not interrogate him. But they kind of figured that they were prepared to have some sort of conversation. But they even said that they were surprised that they came in and battering rammed the front door and everything. And again, if they were going to do it, if he was such a threat, if he was such a threat that they required the paramilitary style raid, why did they wait so long? Why didn't they just do it that night? Why did they wait? It's crap. It's crap. It's crap. Now, I'm not saying that he didn't draw attention to himself. I'm not sitting here jumping up and down screaming, "Oh, poor Adam." That's not what I'm getting at. What I'm saying is their excuse for using these paramilitary style raids. What would have happened if everybody, they were already kind of expecting the cops to come by, but they weren't expecting the raid. What would have happened if they came in and they shot somebody? One of the interns that lives with him, that helps run his show, or his girlfriend who was in the shower at the time. She was taking a shower. Yeah. And then the things that they did, apparently according to one of the interns there, his girlfriend, I'm not getting gross when I say this, ladies, but his girlfriend there was that time of the month for her, and she was sitting there, and she said to the officer, she said, "Look, I'm bleeding all over myself and the floor. Can I please go to the restroom and do what I got to do?" And they repeatedly said no to her, and they made her sit in a puddle of her own blood. I mean, not that it's horrific, or going to kill her, but it's dehumanizing, is what it is. It's done to treat them less than human. They're subhuman. How dare you how dare you even be involved with someone like Adam Kokesh, you filth, sit there. I mean, that's that mentality these idiots in these stormtrooper outfits have. So they made this young lady sit in a puddle of her own blood for about 3 hours. They wouldn't let her go and use the bathroom and, take care of business. I mean, that's just dehumanizing. And that, for what? For what? Oh, because you think Bin Laden's hiding, inside of her underwear? Come on, stupid. Just use your head. It's dumb. This is the kind of stuff that you see going on in tyrannical dictatorships. And now it's okay to have this in our country. I mean, what say you, Steve? Doesn't it piss you off a little bit?
Well, I think it absolutely does, and it should make everybody mad. As a matter of fact, as we talked about before, Popeye, if we had a poll of law enforcement officers around the country, ask them, was the arrest of Adam Kokesh way overdone, dangerously out of control, and enormously expensive and absolutely uncalled for? I think in most cases you would find probably 2/3 of the people who are in law enforcement in this country say absolutely. There was no need for all of this money, all of this showbiz, all these black turtle ninja SWAT team people.
2 helicopters.
Yeah.
They blocked his street off and had 2 helicopters above his house. That is absolutely ridiculous. How much money in fuel did you make those helicopters waste? How much money in man-hours and people that were out there did you waste time on? I'm not saying, look, if you're going to go arrest him for what he did, fine. He broke one of your laws. You want to, bring him through your court system, whatever. But go knock on the guy's door, dude. Wait, it just plays into the mindset of, well, it's okay to have these paramilitary style raids. Now, when I was a kid, it used to be once in a while they would break the SWAT team out. If ever. When I say kid, I mean like when I was late teenager. When they started, SWAT, back in the 90s, SWAT teams were just starting to get used more and more. Now, they had them, they were using the same, they were using the teams somewhat beforehand, but it really got prolific in the 90s. And then after 9/11, now it's just everybody and their mother has a militarized SWAT team and a tank. I mean, who doesn't?
Yeah, you think we'd have learned something back at Waco with that whole episode, how that could have been resolved. All they had to do was knock on the door and say, Kokesh is not going to shoot anybody. He loaded a shotgun. He obviously unloaded it, didn't fire it. So the whole point is I think Kokesh is the winner in all of this, because what he points out is this is the draconian method of law enforcement in this country that is absolutely out of control. These cops, what's going through their minds? How could they even... I would be ashamed if I was a police officer watching this. You guys... most cops like to think they're in control of things, Popeye, as you know. I've known a lot of good cops in my time. And they're the kind of guys, the guys that I know anyway, the kind of guys that think I can handle this all by myself if I have to. I'll just go up and knock on the door. I'm not going to draw a gun. There's no need for it. I'll find out if he's there. I'll tell him we got a warrant. We got to take you in. Sorry about that, but you might be able to beat the rap. But for right now, you got to go down to the station with me. Would you please come? Most cops would say I can handle that myself.
It's like the old saying goes: you might beat the time, but you ain't going to beat the ride.
Right. Right.
And whatever. They could have done it that way. But see, the problem is, Steve, the older generations that think like that are getting moved out, and they're getting these younger guys in where they're admitting. I have it on Federal Jack. Even there's an ABC article. You can go look it up. I think it's from like 2008 or 2009. And just look up cops with IQs lower than 100. And that should bring it up. They're hiring the newer cops. They want lower IQs, and they say it's because the cops that had higher IQs were leaving the force because they get bored easily. Yeah, because you have them doing mundane BS like pulling someone over and checking their their registration, or giving someone a BS ticket for whatever made up garbage infraction that you guys come up with. Instead of investigating and stopping crime, which is the way it's sold to them, which is not really what the job is about. So then instead of changing the way they do things, they just get stupider people to do the same mundane garbage work and push the same agenda / policies Rather they don't change anything. They just get dumber people to do it. Drones, robots, pretty much, just in
RoboCops.
Yeah, like in a biological fashion.
Yeah.
And they don't care. So the older generation of cops that was out there when I was a kid, that would sit and use logic. I got caught lighting garbage cans in the park behind my house on fire when I was a kid by one of the detectives in town.
Oh, yeah.
He knew my mom. You know what he did? He didn't take me to jail. He took me home. I asked him to take me to jail. See, when I was a kid, it was still like, it wasn't if you got in trouble, and this is like in the late 80s when this happened. When I was still a kid, if you got in trouble, they took you to the police station. They didn't take. I mean, only if you were really, really bad. They took you usually home if they knew your parents.
Yeah.
They didn't arrest you and wreck your whole life and give you a police record and everything else. You know what I'm saying? They didn't do that. Only if you were in extreme cases, like where you punched a teacher in the face or something, like you assaulted it. If even school fights, they didn't call the cops. They didn't call. They only started that crap when I was a senior. They started calling the police back in the mid '90s. They started they started doing that. But when I was younger, again, I got caught lighting garbage cans on fire. Okay, they could have nailed me. Now they would have nailed me with an arson charge, probably.
Yeah.
Freaking terrorist, right? No, the detective knew my mother, and he took me home. And I said to him, "Please don't take me home. Please take me to the police station because it'll be better off for me." And no, he took me home, and my mother whooped my ass. Okay, and I deserved it. I was being a little pyro.
She abused you, huh?
Yeah, right? By today's standards, they would call that abuse. Yeah. What I got was what I needed, was an old-fashioned ass whooping. And my mother didn't hit me with a belt or anything. She didn't have to. My mother used to like the wooden spoon. But I got my ass whooped. And you know what, dude? I deserved it. I was being stupid at the time. I was being a little pyro. Like a lot of little boys are pyros. They run around lighting stuff on fire in matches when they're kids. It happens. It's ironic. I became a firefighter later on. Actually, it's not. You'd find out that most guys that are firefighters later on in life or at some point there in their life like to play with fire when they were younger. It's anybody that's a firefighter that hears this broadcast will be like, he's right. I used to play with fire. It just
I put them out. Yeah.
Well, yeah, exactly. You still play with them when you get older. It's just you're putting them out instead. But no, when I was a kid, I would have when that happened. It's different now, dude. I say all the time, if I was a kid now, I would be arrested because the stuff that we did, we lit fireworks off in school when we were kids, like get flushed cherry bombs down the toilet and stuff. Oh, yeah. You do that now, dude, you'd be up there with Bin Laden.
Yeah.
They'll have your wanted poster up in the post office.
Yeah, they keep a big record these days, and of course, like you said, in the old days, they just take you home. I was a pop bottle thief. That's what I got busted for. I would steal people's pop bottles and redeem them and get enough money to play pinball. That was my claim to crime. And they didn't want the pop bottles anyway.
You'd be in jail now.
Yeah, petty theft.
Petty theft.
Yeah.
They'd probably nail you with like a felony.
Grand larceny, yeah. Yeah, it's pretty bad, but I mean, what they did here with Kokesh was just absolutely over the top. So I think he won a victory by proving that some of these cops have no mentality at all. They like to dress up in their uniforms and play cop. This is a big thing for them. I get my padded, Ninja Turtle black Nazi stormtrooper outfit on, and I get to go along with the boys.
It's just a costume, dude. You know what I'm saying? It's just go back, drop it back off at Party City, and then come hang out with the rest of us, like a good human. All right, we'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. Don't think we're bashing police officers. What I'm bashing is the training and the mentality that's being programmed into the drones. And if you are a bad cop, then deal with it. If you ever hear someone say, "Well, these cops, they're out of hand. The guys that beat the crap out of people," don't defend them. If you're a good cop, don't defend them. See, that's the problem. You have. There's this, what do they call it, the thin blue line or whatever.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
And they nobody talks about anything. Nobody says anything. Everybody refers to the police union. That's the problem. Okay, nobody holds a bad cop accountable. So then all the good cops get a bad name. I mean, it's a simple concept. Because nobody ever gets held accountable. When it's someone in the general public, if it was reversed and a bunch of citizens were attacking police all the time, don't you think the citizens would be held accountable? They'd go round them up and they would drag them through the court system and put them in prison and jail. But it's never. There are a few exceptions. I can't say it's never, because there's a few exceptions where once in a while you'll hear about a case where an officer is fired and or sometimes even put in jail. For maybe charged with assault. But those cases, although you do see them, they're they make up like 0.1% of all of the police brutality cases that are really going on out there, or the abuse of authority cases that happen, or these paramilitary style raids where cops are trained that it's okay to dehumanize people and do what they did to Kokesh's girlfriend, or Kokesh. Apparently, he was trying. He asked them to go to the bathroom, or maybe he stood up to go to and asked them to go to the bathroom. Whatever the case was, they kicked them to the ground, like knocked them to the ground with their feet. It's just. I mean, there's no need to treat American citizens. There's no need to treat any human being like that. Do we even need? Why do we need to continue down this road? Shouldn't those officers be looking at themselves and saying, "What am I becoming?" Like, if they have kids. Think about it this way. What are you going to say to your kids when your kids are like 15 and say, "Dad, what were you doing when the New World Order takeover was going on and people were trying to, open their mouths and wake people up and perhaps, get people to stop this before it could even get, as far down the tracks as it is now? What were you doing? How proud are you guys going to be when you're like, well, I was one of the jackboot thugs, son." Yeah, that's something to really be proud of. What say you, Steve?
Well, it's just like somebody talking about being involved with the Gestapo in Nazi Germany, or one of Stalinist's henchmen. It's the same kind of stuff. I mean, the odd thing about this is I'm reading from this story, Kit Daniels on InfoWars today, July 12th, says Kokesh is being held without bond. I mean, come on.
From what I understand, they're thinking about Kokesh. Apparently, one of the sheriff's deputies or somebody said to him, I guess it's the sheriffs that's got him locked up over there. They said to him while he was, I don't know if it was while he was in the cell or, transportation between or in the courtroom, but somewhere therein, the comment was made to him that they're thinking about charging him with sedition.
Yeah.
Armed sedition.
Well, he could have used some better words in the video. He could have said this is the beginning of the restoration rather than the revolution. But that term revolution doesn't necessarily imply violence in all cases. Did he shoot anybody?
Did he actually go and gather a group of people and march? No, it was him by himself, and it could be argued that he was loading dummy rounds into that gun. So technically, is it really a loaded live firearm? No, it's got dummy training rounds in it. And if then that begs the question, can somebody be prosecuted in the state? I mean, if he gets a good attorney to help defend this, they could tear this thing apart. Yeah. But the point is, what are they going to do to Kokesh while he's in jail? I mean, apparently he would. I guess he didn't want to leave his cell and go into the courtroom, so they forcefully removed him and slapped him into a wheelchair and rolled him into the courtroom. And then he didn't say anything, and the judge said, "Well, silence is consent." Now, the law does. That's the way the law does look at silence, and apparently it's because he didn't have counsel, and he said he wanted counsel, and he didn't want to. He didn't say, but somehow he was able to, I guess, get the message across that he didn't want to speak in the courtroom until he had counsel, which makes sense. That way, he wouldn't incriminate himself, or they wouldn't be able to use anything he said against them. He'd have. I mean, that's your basic legal rights. Yeah. Even if he was such a bad guy or a terrorist or whatever they want to throw at him, even if he was such a bad guy, it's your basic human right. In this country anyway, one of your basic rights is that you're able to, have an attorney and converse with him.
You can take the Fifth Amendment
unless they arrested him under the Patriot Act, because that's the only way I could see them going around that. Now, but then would there even be any notice of where he is? So I mean, we'll see where it's going. I'm going to cut us off because the break's sneaking up. Don't go anywhere, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be right back. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. We need to get the message across. We need to get out and get these police officers to understand that they're being brainwashed. The ones that think that they're, we're at war with scum. We need to we need to get out there, and we need to. They're trying to keep us divided. and then they fill their head with propaganda, and then when people get pissed off at them, their community will turn around and use it and say, "See, they hate us. They don't like us. They hate us. They're all against cops. You see, they just don't care about us." And we need to mend that divide, because we all need to come together, or we're not. It's going to get messy, and it's going to go the way that the powers that shouldn't be want it to. And what's one of the ways to avert this, or help avert a really bloody, total tyranny, or civil uprising against anyone in uniform. If they say they push it to an economic collapse, and then all bets are off. That's the kind of stuff that they're pushing for. The people that are in power right now. That's what they want. So we can head that off the pass. We don't even have to get there. But the only way to do it is to approach these jackboots, and we have to. The way to we need to reach out to them through organizations like Oath Keepers or whoever, maybe other ones too. People need to form other organizations out there that are law enforcement officers or military. We need to reach out to them and help them understand that this is not what they're doing is wrong. I mean, there's another case where just shocking abuse of authority. A bicyclist in Oregon, guy was riding a bicycle. He wasn't even doing anything wrong. He was just riding his bike, and his friend was riding without lights on his bike. And because his friend was riding without lights on his bike, the cop stopped his friend, and then they asked this guy for his ID, and he's like, "I'm on a bike. I don't need to give you ID." And long story short, things quickly escalated because of the police officers, and they ended up arresting him for DUI. Okay, he wasn't drinking. But they arrested him for DUI, and then took him to the hospital, and they wanted to give him a urinalysis, and he's like, "No, I'm not giving you. I didn't do anything wrong. I was riding my bicycle. You're insane." And they're like, "Well, if you're not doing anything wrong, then give us the urine." But wait a minute, I didn't do anything wrong. Why should you have my urine to begin with, right? So then they strapped him down, and the hospital staff, of course, complied. And any nurses out there that help with this type of stuff, you people are disgusting, and you're just as much of a disgrace as the scumbag who was wearing the costume doing it. But and any lawmaker that passed a law saying if it was legal to do so, then I don't know if it's legal in Oregon to do this, but they said that he put they put the catheter in forcefully in the guy while he was wide awake. They shoved the catheter inside of him. Now I don't know if people understand what that means, but a catheter gets shoved in your urethra, gentlemen. You know what your urethra is, right? It's the hole that you pee out of. Think about how sensitive that is when you have a tiny stone, like a kidney stone. Those things are they're not big. Usually they're like smaller than a grain of sand, and it puts you on the ground, right? Now think about how it feels when you're wide awake and not numbed up to have a catheter inserted up your urethra. And I'm talking just grabbing your junk and jamming the catheter in to take your pee forcefully because they think that you're a bad person and I'm going to get you, you little scumbag, for DUI. That's right, I'm going to get you. Because that's the attitude they have. Yeah, I'm Johnny Law. They get all jacked up in it. They get a hard-on for it. And that's the kind of guy that should not be doing that job. And that's the mentality that they're pumping these people up with. You know?
We're going to have to re-examine the psychosis of a lot of these people.
Exactly.
That's really the problem. And it's not that good cops can make bad mistakes, of course, but there are some people who just don't know when to stop, and they have no business. They're
also pumped up on fear, too. You have to remember the training, and I'm not defending them, but you have to understand people have to have a full grasp of the full picture. They're also pumped up on fear, too, Steve. So they get people that have lower IQs, are more easily manipulated, and then they pump them up on fear, and then send them off to deal with the general public. What do you think's going to happen?
Yeah.
And then even some of the smarter ones, they're pumped up on fear. It's always, the people hate us, it's a war against scum, there's terrorists outside your window. You know what I mean? A lot of them, unfortunately, believe whatever propaganda crap that they're fed. So some of them think for themselves, but there's a lot of them that don't. And they thrive. It's not that they end up living off that fear. I don't even think they realize that it's the fear vibe. But some of them might think it's adrenaline, but it's that constant fear that keeps them amped up. You know what I mean? And then they wonder why cops, have a high rate of suicide, or a lot of them have heart attacks when they get older and everything. You can't live on that vibe constantly like that and have a good outcome. That'll affect your health too, and it does. I mean, we need to stop this. Look, I think you hit the nail on the head, Steve. You with what you said. It's the psychosis of that thinking. We need to go and examine the way that they're being programmed. Shut that programming off. Stop it. And then whoever's been programmed with that, go and start to deprogram them and give them back some humanity. It's possible, but we need to make the effort, and if we do that, we can bridge that gap. But if we have to be careful, because that's why I always try to be positive too when talking about this kind of stuff, and I try to reach out even though if I get if I get verbally pissed off about something and I say something to I say something like I directly to the police or whoever out there, whatever, I just throw it out there. I also try to come with a positive attitude, trying to let them know that I'm not trying to put out there that it's us versus them. It's the last thing I want to push, because that's what the powers that shouldn't be want. And I don't want to play into that mentality, because that's what they want. They want people to butt heads. They want a continuization of what you see going on, or continuation, whatever. I made my own word up. They want to continue what you see with the park police putting on their SWAT gear to go have a good time at Kokesh's house. You know what I mean? Do you really need it? Well, he's a Marine veteran. He's got a gun. He could be a danger. You can't knock on the door. You just assume he's a danger, so you kick his door in or use a battering ram and chuck in a grenade. They do that all the time now. How many innocent people have been killed like that, Steve? Little kids getting shot in the head by these guys.
All over, yeah. Flashbang grenades are dangerous as it is. I mean, you've got a lot of problems. Of course, there's always the case, too, when somebody doesn't know who's coming through the door, that they are armed, and they might start firing back simply because they just don't know who it is. Let me
tell you what, if at 3 o'clock in the morning I hear a bang in my living room, I'm going to get up and be like, what the is going on? And I'm going to have my gun in my hand. And that's a lot of times these homeowners are getting shot because they do these raids where they think that it was drug, on a warrant for drug activity. And what's the one case they raided a guy's house? The guy had less than an ounce of marijuana, which obviously is personal consumption. In a lot of states, an ounce or less is considered a misdemeanor. So they SWAT team this guy's house for what is considered in most places a misdemeanor, and kill him. Shot him dead because he woke up in the middle of the night. He didn't know what the hell was going on, and they shot and killed him. And how many times have they done that, and it's in the wrong house, and they kill the homeowner, and they tell the person, well, it was justified because that guy came at us with a gun, and, we don't know, but you broke in the wrong effing house. Well, it was justified. And they get medals. There's cases where these guys have gotten medals for breaking into the wrong friggin' house and killing the homeowner in the wrong house. Some innocent person that was just defending their home, which is their right, and they get shot. Or they just shot some guy in a bed, or I guess the story came out, maybe it was back in 2011 they shot him, but I just saw the article that was written about it recently. Guy was in his bed, they shot him something like 16 times. In his bed. Well, we thought he was reaching for a gun. And it was justified because they thought he was reaching for a gun. So, how is it not justified when they bust in the house at 3 o'clock in the morning wearing ski masks and they don't announce themselves, and the homeowner shoots one of them dead, which has happened, and then they want to take the homeowner in and call him a cop killer? Well, how come that's not justified? Oh, because the shoe's on the other foot. You see, you can't have your cake and eat it too. I'm sorry, you can't. That ain't right. It's not right if it's only for a certain class of people that they have the right to defend themselves, or they can do whatever they want, and everybody else, you're screwed, and you better not try to defend yourself. It's just ridiculous. There's no need to be SWAT teaming people. Just go knock on people's doors, man. Why? Look, we never had a problem. All of a sudden, SWAT teams, cops get shot when they go to serve warrants. Okay, it happens. It's a dangerous job. It's a stressful job.
Sure.
You guys signed up for that. So
I had a good friend.
Well, one of my closest friends is a deputy sheriff, and I worry about him when he's out on the road. I don't want some moron hitting him, a drunk driver, or something bad happening to him. He's one of my closest friends, like a brother to me. But he's one of the good cops. He's not an idiot. He actually listens to the broadcast. But the guy's like a brother to me. So I don't hate anybody that goes out there to do the right thing. And I'm not hating on anybody in particular. Like I said, I'm trying to mend this gap. I'm trying to make you realize that this thinking that you guys are running around kicking in doors and stuff, dude, it's out of control. And they say that the reason why they do these paramilitary-style raids is for the element of surprise. Well, man, just what's the point, though? Well, because we don't want people to get rid of evidence. So you come in, kill the family dogs, possibly kill people in the process of raiding their house, all because they might get rid of some evidence. They might try to flush some evidence down the toilet. I mean, you guys haven't figured out a better way to do things. Like, you maybe perhaps if it's an apartment complex or a house, perhaps before you go knock on the door and have them do whatever, you have somebody come and shut their the sewer line down or something. Shut down close off the valve or whatever. I mean, there's a million ways to do it if you think about it. Maybe it won't work in every case. If they're in an apartment complex, you could shut off the main drain line that leaves from the building, because a lot of buildings have one main line that goes out. Just shut that line down. Most of them have a butterfly valve or some sort of valve that you can close it off with. Shut it down before you go raid, and then if they flush anything down, it's in the line between there and the evidence will be gone. It'll be mixed in with all that stuff. Well, hey, what can I tell you? That's the chance you run. So in order,
and that's this is all that war on drugs, Popeye. And I mean, what kind of amount of drugs is going to?
No, I was going to say it's bullshit. Go on.
Yeah, I mean, how much drugs are you going to? How much of a illegal substance can you put down a toilet anyway? I mean, it's like, of course, in Kokesh's case, they're saying he had a little bit of psilocybin, but I kind of doubt that, because I would suppose if he did, it would have been something he had forgotten about many years ago. I would not keep anything in the house like that under the circumstances.
They thought that if they thought the cops were going to come, don't you think that they would clean the house? I mean, maybe
that's right.
Maybe one of their guys forgot something, but he just got arrested for the pot thing, at the pot rally or whatever. If he wasn't going to bring any with him there, and I don't know if I think that they had cleaned, they had done like a clean sweep of the place at the time after that to make sure there wasn't anything laying around in case they wanted to come in and check the place. So I mean, maybe somebody left something. Who knows? He could have slipped up. People make mistakes. Everybody's human. Nobody's perfect. But I mean, there is that question: did they plant it there? Could they have planted it there?
Did they have a warrant to search the house for that item? The Fourth Amendment says you must have a warrant to be, which specifies what you're looking for.
For the thing to be seized and what you're looking for. They can't just have like an open-ended warrant, like I want to search the house for ...
Right.
So, but we're looking for the gun, apparently, and any video files, maybe raw video files. That's what I guess one of the interns said. But if that's the case, how did they come across the psilocybin mushrooms and and I think they said they found cannabis too. But if it was planted, it would be easy to plant it, because they've seen him trip on DMT on air. Cops don't know, especially ones that have never tripped on anything, done any hallucinogenic type of substances. They might not know the difference between DMT and LSD and mushrooms, and or maybe that's all the only hallucinogenic they could get their hands on. They didn't have any DMT, but they figured, he does hallucinogenics, and he does. It could very well be Kokesh's, but the question should be asked is, did they plant it? Because they've done it before on traffic stops on people, so it wouldn't surprise me. All right, I'm gonna pause it right there, Steve, because we got the break sneaking up on us. Ladies and gentlemen, don't go anywhere. We're back with tonight's final segment. Stay tuned. We are back. Final segment, Steve. Man, every time you come on, dude, and I know I say this every time you come on, but seriously, every time you come on, I blink and the show's over.
Yeah, we have a good time. We get wrapped up, that's for sure. We have a lot of energy, and I enjoy doing the programs with you. It's always fun.
Well, we have a good flow, dude, and the information just bounces back and forth between us. That's why I've been doing shows with you for, years now, a couple years now.
Yeah, we got them up there all over the internet. They're still getting a lot of hits.
But, well, and I still see you doing comment battles over some of the older broadcasts. It kind of cracks me up randomly. I'll see comments pop up, and then I'll see you pop up in a reply to them, and I'm like, oh, poor Steve dealing with the idiots. Because it's usually randomly. Sometimes it's a decent comment, but sometimes it's it's trollish morons. A lot of times it's those bots. I tell people not to argue too much on in comments on YouTube and on Twitter, because a lot of times, especially the ones that the profile comes up and there's no picture or no information or anything, they're bots. Whether they're automated bots or literally a computer program and it's some Air Force moron or Army moron, and that's what they do. That's their MOS is to sit there and log on with this computer program, and it mimics 10 people at once. They literally do this. So don't even waste your time with it. Most of them come at you with logical fallacies. Hit them with the term, debunk them the way I do when I rip apart the media. Just hit them with, you don't have a real valid argument. It's filled with logical fallacies, this, that, the other thing. 99% of them won't even respond to you because it's just no point in it because they've lost already. They won't even understand what you're saying. And if they're one of these Army or Air Force people, they'll just move on. And if it is maybe a paid troll or somebody that's just there are people that are just idiots and jerk-offs at times. I mean, there are people like that. Well, then if they continue, then you can own them and school them if you'd like or whatever. But you know what? Honestly, it's just a waste of time. That's what they're there for. They're there to distract you and take away from doing the good work that you're doing. If you're getting trolled hardcore, it's kind of like a rite of passage. It means that you're probably doing something right. Unless you're taking the trolls on, well, then that's why you're getting trolled, because you're taking them on. You should just ignore them. They'll go away. They're kind of like gnats, I mean,
it has boosted our numbers though too. Sometimes I do it occasionally just because I notice that it also brings up the hits on the post.
Well, the things that you get hit with, I mean, it's a little bit. Usually it's someone trying to debunk something, but they don't have any knowledge about what they're talking about, and it's like, really, dude, and then you end up schooling them. But I mean, you know what I mean. The outlandish trolls that are out there. People need to be on the lookout for them. And look, as far as to wrap it up, as far as the police, look, we need to change the mentality of what they're teaching, and that'll go a long way. And then we need to reach out. And look, there are going to be some cases where there's going to be the person that is unreachable, and then I don't know, you reach out to the good ones and you have them deal with them. I mean, that's the only way. That's the best way to deal with it, because any other way, it's going to be looked at it as an adversarial us versus them mentality, and we need to all work together. Because at the end of the day, they don't care. By the way, police and military, the powers that shouldn't be, the scumbags, they don't care about you. That's why they call you their dogs, and by that they means that they look at you like you're lower. They look at us. They call us the dead. The general public. They call the general public the dead, because no one's really living through their soul or and to their true potential, and they understand this, but they call military and police their dogs and they look at military and police like they're lower than whale crap, because they're willing to do things to their own kind for $1 or for $1 or to get ahead. So just think about that, and they don't care about you. They don't. I mean, look throughout history, it's been proven. Look what happened to the brown shirts. Look what Hitler did to them. He sold them out when the German army said, we'll fight for you, but you got to get rid of your brown shirts. Off went the brown shirts. Half were dead, the other half went to camp. Okay? Yeah. That's the way it works. And they don't care. So
the Bolsheviks, too.
Yeah, pull your head from your butt. Steve, we have about a minute. Final thoughts?
Well, we've got a lot of things up here. I would encourage people to go to federaljack.com and help you out, Popeye. We've got a lot of archives. You and I have run a bunch of shows, and I'm listening to a lot of yours up on YouTube. Like them, pass them on. Podcasts, get this word out, help us, and we'll keep doing it.
Yeah, man, thank you for coming on again.
Hey, my pleasure.
It's always a great broadcast when you come on. Ladies and gentlemen, Steve and I urge you, I know Steve will agree with me when I say this, we both urge you to, think outside the box. If any of the broadcasts that Steve and I do together, or I do myself, or Steve will do by himself in the future, and we'll do together in the future, if you take away anything, I would like it to be this. The government, the media wants you to think that the only thing that exists around you are 4 walls all around you and the floor, and that if you can believe that, then you'll believe that there's a ceiling above you. There is no ceiling. Step outside that box and look around you and realize how big an open space that you are truly in, and you will actually come to see your true potential. The solutions to our problems are truly an inside job, ladies and gentlemen. Look inside yourselves, each and every one of you, and I promise we'll get through this together. And with that, we're out of time. I'll see you all again live on Monday. We're out of here. Love you all.